Hello everyone, amateur meteorologist. First in weather here, it is June 17th, 2023, and we have quite a few interesting weather things to talk about over the lower 48. It's been a very interesting past couple weeks or so. This right here is satellite loop for the live satellite loop for this morning. And you can see that overall things are kind of quiet right now, especially over the mid-Atlantic, southeast, and northeast. You have a nice little low spinning just southeast of Maine. That's leading to things being quite cloudy over most of New England. You can also see that as a result of that low, we have some pretty stubborn northwesterly flow, bringing in air from Canada over the northeast. And you can see those clouds kind of bursting over this afternoon as those temperatures warm up. One thing you'll also notice is that around the lakes, there's an area of cloud, there's a cloud-free zone. And that's, again, because that colder air from the lake, that colder water temperatures from the lake are being convected over land downwind of the lakes due to that northwesterly flow. And so you get an inversion taking place where you have colder air at the surface and warmer air aloft. And so that basically shuts down any cloud cover. So it makes things quite nice. If you're on the shore of the lakes this time of year, you have northwesterly flow, you have beautiful clear blue skies, and then just downwind of that you have those little cumulus clouds forming, those altocumulus clouds forming. As a result of those warmer temperatures, those clouds rise and you sort of get these beautiful cloud formations. You'll also notice that we have some gravity waves forming in the mountains of Virginia. This is a result of the air mass we're currently seeing being generally stable, low dew points, air being forced to rise and being forced to sink again. So you can see some nice little cloud action going over there. And one thing you'll also notice is that the eastern U.S., basically east of the Mississippi, looks quite hazy, especially at the beginning of this satellite loop. And that's because of the record wildfires we're seeing in Canada this year, especially in the past couple months or so. And if you remember last week, we had record-breaking smoke and PM 2.5 pollution in New York, the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast. New York essentially was a orange sort of apocalyptic scene, and that was again directly from the wildfires in Canada, with a persistent sort of upper level low just to the east of the northeast. You had a very strong ridge in Canada, and that flow went right over the northeast. All that very concentrated that smoke from the wildfires went right over the eastern U.S. and it made for some very interesting weather. Temperatures were coming in much lower than expected. Of course, the huge health impacts, very adverse health impacts to people, especially sensitive groups, from all the air pollution. And while we were cleared out for a few days, the wildfire smoke is already back. You have another sort of complex of wildfires in Alberta and favorable upper level conditions to sort of funnel that smoke down into the northeast and mid-Atlantic. This time it won't be as bad. You can see that the worst area is kind of in this line right here, but still seeing some smoke, but again, nowhere near as bad as what we had a few days ago. And now in the sort of panning to the rest of the lower 48, you can see in Texas, we have, again, some haze here from wildfires in Mexico. You have some cloud cover. This actually is going to be a pretty big area of interest, as we have sort of a ridge to the south and a upper level low and stationary front or not upper level low, a shortwave and a stationary front to the north, and this is going to be the main region for seeing some severe weather for the next couple of days as storms fire up in the late afternoon. Now, taking a look at sort of the analysis of how things have been going so far this June, this is the daily mean temperature anomaly map from June 1st to June 16th, and you'll notice that it's been quite cool, actually. Most of the eastern U.S. has been seeing temperatures about 1 to 3 degrees below average, even more in the southwest, including California, and the upper Midwest to central or upper Great Plains, and also the Pacific Northwest have been seeing temperatures above average, around 3 to 5 degrees above average. So pretty interesting stuff to see. It's definitely been a cooler than average start to the month of June in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. There's been many days with high temperatures in the 60s to mid-70s, which is, again, quite unusual. Very, very low dew points as a result of all that dry air coming over Canada. Dew points, in fact, were in the 20s for most of Pennsylvania last week. So again, very incredible stuff. And as a result as well, the way the pattern has been shaping up, it's been very dry. This is a look at the precipitation anomalies for the first 15 to 16 days of June. And you'll see, again, it's been very, very dry over much of the Northeast. This has gone a little bit better in the past few days as we've seen some systems move through, some cold fronts and some lows. In fact, you can see in Maine and southwestern Pennsylvania, the deficit has decreased. But overall, in many other places as well, the Ohio Valley, the upper Midwest, has been very, very dry. Only real wet spots here are Wyoming, Colorado, much of Nevada, the western U.S., and also some pockets in California being quite wet. The biggest dry spot is southern Arizona. So now if we take a look at these severe weather reports, you might have noticed that it's been a very, very quiet season. In fact, not a single severe weather report for the month of May in Pennsylvania. Basically all of the Northeast. Essentially a very, very quiet severe weather season, at least to start for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. Almost no thunderstorm activity at all either. So very, very disappointing for weather enthusiasts at least. But as we switch over to the month of June, conditions are starting to become more favorable for severe weather as we look to essentially ramp up that thunderstorm activity. We've seen some thunderstorms in Pennsylvania, some storms recently in the Northeast as well. And that should start to increase. And you also notice that we're seeing quite a bit of severe weather activity in Texas, Oklahoma, and that should also start to fill in this map as we go forward. Now, taking a look at the Storm Prediction Center severe weather forecast, this is the day 1 convective outlook for basically today. And you'll notice that we have an enhanced risk of severe weather over Oklahoma and northern Texas. The main threat, of course, being damaging winds, hail, a few tornadoes are possible as well. If we just read this discussion here, you'll notice that we have the possibility of severe thunderstorms. We have a very unusually strong westerly wind, so that is creating unusual shear over the southern U.S. You don't really see this in the month of June. You usually see this, further north as you go into the upper Midwest, the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic. So very unusual to say the least about this severe weather here. And then day 2, that risk shifts a bit further east, and another enhanced risk for southern Mississippi, Arkansas, northern Louisiana. So again, pretty interesting severe weather going on currently. And if we take a look at the NAM model for today, you can see that it does in fact show some storms firing up over Texas and Oklahoma. You can see it shows, some pretty good mesos taking place, some rotation in these storms. Conditions will be ripe. You have warm temperatures, plenty of CAPE, high dews, adequate shear. So definitely a good day for some severe weather. Again, not a huge risk, so to speak, but definitely could see quite a few severe storms, damaging wind gusts, etc. And this kind of shows one way to see why. You can just see how warm it has been in Texas and much of the South. High temperatures today in Texas are going to reach the upper 90s to low to mid 100s. So again, very, very warm. And if you look at the dew points as well, you can see we also have a pretty interesting setup here. You have a dry line, and again, dry air is much denser than wetter air, so you kind of have this instability taking place that causes air to rise as the dry line progresses eastward. So again, kind of multiple lifting factors here taking place. The dry line, the short wave, the stationary front, all coming together to create quite a few unstable scenarios here. Now, taking a look at the NAM 12-kilometer resolution model, you can see that this is a look at the upper-level geopotential height anomalies for June 17th, 2023. And if we take a look here, you can see we have a trough over the Northeast. Again, that's a result that's causing those northwesterly winds, that beautiful weather here over the Northeast, that cutoff low in Maine. And then you can also see that ridge in southern Texas, causing those stronger westerlies and those storms to take place right around the periphery of that ridge today and tomorrow as well. Now, going forward in time, you can see that cutoff low and that trough over the Northeast kind of just lingers. So again, beautiful weather looks to be the main theme, at least for the next few days. You can see we're on the confluence or the convergence side, or sinking side of that trough. So again, weak high pressure will be in place at the surface. Beautiful weather conditions, nice and sunny, high temperatures in the mid 70s to low 80s, relatively low dew points for this time of year. And after that, things kind of just progress, and then you have a stalled or a cutoff low under a ridge. This is sort of an omega block ridge, cutoff low underneath, and this paints a very sort of unsettled and stormy period for the Southeast and Mid-Atlantic. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see some severe weather this time next week in the Southeast. Conditions will be cooler, but you'll also have favorable shear. Temperatures will be warm enough at least to see some pretty significant storm development. And this is sort of the temperature, anomaly map that takes place. Because of that, you can see it's quite cool in the Southeast, warmer up in Canada, which again is more bad news because the wildfires there are just truly going crazy, and quite cold out west. Now, switching to the longer range models, the GFS, continuing off from where we left off with the NAM, again, it also shows that cutoff low, that big Rex block and Omega block over the southern Canada region, keeping things very, very toasty over there. And so this is going to be kind of a stagnant pattern. So conditions will be quite nice in the Northeast, a bit above average starting next week, around Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Quite unsettled in the Southeast and Mid-Atlantic with some storms every day. Conditions running a bit below average, not too much, but 3 to 5 degrees below average in terms of high temperatures and stuff like that. And another pretty significant, trough over the western United States, over California, Nevada, Washington State, and Oregon. And as we go through time, you'll see right here that cutoff low essentially just stays in place for much of the next few days as that progresses in time. And that essentially is the pattern for most of the lower 48 for the next few days. And so again, a pretty interesting weather pattern for the next few days. Nothing too exciting to write home about, but again, overall summary is some severe weather in Texas, Oklahoma for the next couple of days, relatively good weather in the Northeast, and that turns into sort of a high pressure system, a predominant ridging setup taking place for New England as we go into next week, and generally unsettled and stormy conditions in the Southeast. So before I end this video really quickly, I want to show you guys one plot I made showing the air pollution outbreak from last week, just to show you how unusual the smoke and wildfire smoke was for much of the Northeast. So this is taking a look using EPA AQS data. This is taking a look at the daily max PM2.5 AQI value for the New York, Newark, and New Jersey metro areas. And this data goes back to 1999. And you can see that these blue dots right here represent the daily max value. So as you go back in time, you have some values, exceeding 150, approaching 160 once in a while on your worst days, but generally below 100. And in recent years, those values have improved quite a bit, with values below 100, almost never going above 70 or 80. And this red dot right here is what we had for our max AQI value on June 7th. So just completely out of the park, blowing all the records, out of the water. And so very, very unusual stuff. Definitely something that we won't see again anytime soon, most likely. And this right here shows a color-coded version of that plot, just to show you an idea of how extreme things were. The last time we had a red value for air pollution was 2009. So again, just to give you an idea of how crazy this has been. In fact, this air pollution PM2.5 value was 9.3 standard deviations above the mean. So very, very, very unusual stuff. The percentage of this happening, was less than 0.001%. So again, very, very incredible stuff. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.